Hello and welcome to the Kimberley IT podcast, episode 68 with myself, James Kimberley, the founder of Kimberley IT, joined with Kyle as normal. And our special guest this week is Pete Matheson, best known for Tekkers IT, which you sold earlier this year, didn't you, Peter?
Hello, thank you. Yes, I did indeed. Very fortunate timing, that's for sure. But yeah.
Just before the COVID.
Sale of a business timing ever known.
March the 5th and then 2 weeks later lockdown. So as good as timing as you can get, I believe.
If you want to know how to exit a business on time, Peter's the guy to chat to. So let's get straight into our recap of the last fortnight. I'll start with the second thing that we got on the rundown, which is we got hit by COVID in that we were having a Wi-Fi installation take place. So we've got a client that's got a couple of nursing homes around the country, and they're having a new Wi-Fi installation take place. And as our installation team hit the M25, they had a phone call come through, and they did pick it up. And it was NHS track and trace. And one of the guys had been near somebody who'd contracted COVID. So they were all told to go back home and isolate for 14 days. So that's delayed the project. But yeah, it's better. We were talking about it. It's actually better that they got that phone call before they got to the nursing home rather than getting the phone call the next day. Because then if they'd had
nobody in the car with him at all?
Pardon?
Was there nobody in the car with him at all? I wondered, like, how does that work? Does the person that's in the same car then have to isolate as well, or is it just the person that's got? I'm guessing it's just the person with the notification.
There was two of them in there, so they both have to isolate.
Really?
Yeah. So Matt and his guy Chris both had to isolate.
Ouch.
That seems kind of almost like a crazy domino effect, doesn't it? Because James, when your daughter had to come home from school because someone had COVID in the class or the near class, it didn't affect you, did it? You didn't then have to quarantine.
No, but I think it's different with children because there's no recorded record globally of any child passing COVID to an adult and vice versa, no adult passing COVID to a child. So the adults don't need to quarantine, just the children do. Right, okay, all right. I did wonder about that one. Yeah, so that was a weird spanner in our works. We've done pretty well this year to not have COVID directly impact us. I say, James had a little bit of extra care to take care of his daughter a couple of weeks back. And he did a pretty good job there, to be honest. I've got two young children and James was still working almost kind of normally. And I was like, how do you do that? Mine would be destroying things on my desk. But perhaps that says more about parenting ability than mine. A good bag of Haribo sweets. That's the secret. Bribery. Always good, yeah. How about you, Pete? Have you had any COVID interruptions in your business? Or
thankfully not, because I've not had a business. But as far as I'm aware, nothing's happened within the business itself. I'm a bit detached from it now. But thankfully, even in amongst people very few people have certainly caught it. I think we know of a few people that have caught it through friends of a friends, and we do unfortunately know of. I think it's one of my wife's old school friends' parents died because of it as well. It's horrendous, of course it is, but it's just with all the precautions being put in place, I think it's quite. I mean, we're in the safe area down here. I don't know if you've seen that map that's probably been doing the rounds on Twitter and LinkedIn. It's up north is absolutely effed. Middle is kind of you're okay, and then south is completely safe.
Anyway, the next big announcement was what we do: Google Workspace, G Suite being rebranded Google Workspace. And that actually happened while we were recording the last podcast. So it happened in the morning. So I've had to do a lot of rebranding over the last week and a bit, just changing all our references to G Suite over to Google Workspace. Which took a bit of time.
Do you have any knowledge to that being a Google partner?
Nope.
Really?
No. And the only thing we had was that they had announced that next week there will be a big announcement regarding G Suite, and that was it. And to tune in so we found out at the same time that everyone else in the world found out when they announced it.
I've got a funny feeling that really nobody knew, because we know a couple of big partners in the US, and I don't think they knew. Certainly one of them has told us yesterday they didn't know, and they're a significant partner. I don't know if Tony did, James, but I get the feeling that they don't know. I don't know.
No, it's one of these things that you don't want to leak out because it's such a big change. So you keep it quiet just to the group of people that do need to know about it.
So what are your thoughts on the changes? I know pricing's changed a lot. They've kind of moved some features around. I've just literally posted a video about this, so I'm fairly clued up as far as someone that doesn't really use Google is clued up. Be interested to get your thoughts on it.
I like it. I like the new branding anyway, because it's always had weird branding. Because initially it was Google Apps, but then Google Apps was kind of awkward because you talk to people about Google Apps and they think, oh, well, you're talking about the Google Apps that you bought on your mobile phone. But, so they wouldn't know it's a business thing. Then you had G Suite, which was clearly playing on a Microsoft Office suite, an Office suite. But Google Workspace kind of says what it is now. It is a place to do your work wherever you are. Price-wise, we bundle our G Suite, Google Workspace, into all our packages. I've been doing that a few times recently, getting the name wrong. So for us and our clients, it doesn't really make any difference whatsoever. They get some benefits in that they get better features in Google Meet, because Google Meet at the point, previously I was having a go at Google because I was thinking, why are you putting these features in the enterprise package only? This was before we knew the change was taking place. So if you want to compete with Zoom, you're not competing with Zoom very well here, because Zoom gives you these features, but they have a 40-minute time limit. So what you should do is give these features to everyone, but have a 60-minute time limit if you're going to do it that way. And then you can still upsell if you want to get rid of that time limit and get a couple of extra things. But now the important stuff in Google Meet, because video calling is pretty much the most important app really when it comes down to it now in communications. They're now coming back into the Google Business package, the Google Business Plus package. And the Google Business Standard has also got some of those features coming in, like recording video calls, which is actually incredibly useful because it allows you to do more things with video calls, like, for example, this podcast. But it's also fantastic if someone can't make a video call and they need to see the playback later. So having features like that in a business package, because that was just enterprise initially, is a massive benefit to people. You've got different data handling. So for me, I still say it's pretty much unlimited for the vast majority of users. So rather than getting unlimited space, you've got either 2 terabytes or 5 terabytes of space, unless you go on the enterprise package, and it is still unlimited.
James,
yeah.
It is worth noting at that point, that is only non-Google Workspace files. So docs slides don't count against your allocation of data, and that's pretty important.
I think it only really affects people who do a lot of video editing, because we've had a look through our client.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah, you're screwed. But we've had a look through our clients, and you can see that there's, on the marketing agencies, there's a couple of video editors that are over their 2 terabyte limit if they go on the G Suite Business. So they'll go to G Suite Business Plus. So they have the 5 terabyte of space. And then once they get to that 5 terabyte, if they ever do, we can buy extra space on top anyway without having to upgrade them to the full enterprise package. But for a standard normal user, which is the vast majority of people, 2 terabytes is essentially unlimited when it comes down to it for those guys. They're not going to hit that limit for a long, long time.
Yeah, it seems to me like they've split it down into the world of small, medium-sized businesses and given you sort of 4 options there, and then enterprise for 300 plus user organizations. And really there's very little in it. As James says, the storage is kind of irrelevant. E-discovery is one part of it. So I'd say if your business is over 15 employees, or you're in a certain industry, maybe you'd want to move up to the Plus version just to catch the Vault and the e-discovery. But if you're not, then you'd be fine on business. There's not much in it. And the Meet thing has been brought down to both of the levels that it wasn't at before. So that's the real plus for us, is that the Meet has all the features that it didn't have.
Because I'm quite a heavy user when it comes down to files. It's taken me a decade just to get over 1 terabyte. So I've still got a way to go on mine. I'm not even sure if I need to check this out, but I think these recordings of Google Meet don't count towards your quota, because I've been doing lots of recordings of Google Meet since, and I don't see my data usage going up massively. So I'm not sure that these recordings in Google Meet count against your quota either, because it's probably because they were generated inside a Google product rather than it being generated elsewhere. If I generated it maybe using Zoom and then uploaded the file, then that probably would count against my quota.
One thing I was surprised about was that in terms of the Google files not using your Google Drive space, is that the Google email does use your Google Drive space, which is opposite to my world of Microsoft side of things, where you have a separate storage allocation for your Exchange mailbox of 50 gig or 100 gig. Whereas with Google, it uses your 1 terabyte or 30 gig or whatever storage space you're using, admittedly because people can send those large video files or the graphics files or what have you. So it does make sense, but I just found it curious that they're kind of that's how they've done things, rather than kind of treating the Google Drive storage separately. Sorry, the Google Mail storage separately.
It might be to do with the Google Mails came out way before Google Drive did. It's just might be an infrastructure setup.
I would say
that's why they cracked it differently.
I reckon it's that, James. It's always been that way with Google. Everything just starts as your allocation, and they just tagged it on. Whereas, of course, Microsoft originally pulled Exchange Server and put it together, and I think they're just holding on to that legacy idea that you have an Exchange server. I reckon at some point they might let that go and just go, look, it is just 365 and you have XYZ storage.
Oh, it will do. They've been trying to get rid of the on-prem apps for ages and years, so it's all on the way.
Well, they're not trying hard enough.
Well, they did. They've tried ripping features out over the years, and the demand's been there to put them back in another few months later. I think they removed public folders, which is their version of just shared folder structure, and then got such high demand to put it back in again. Literally, the next feature update put them back in again.
Oh, public folders, James. Oh, whoa.
Well, I've never had to deal with that. I've always been G Suite. Google Workspace now since the beginning of Kimberly IT.
I've supported Exchange starting at version 4.5 on SBS server 4.5. So yeah, been through that hell. Next.
You're using Google Workspace, aren't you, Pete? Now for your
I'm on G Suite. I don't know how the I've seen lots of things coming about transition periods and having to upgrade. I haven't received any notification yet, but from what I'm reading up on, it basically seems to be that when you hit your renewal date, your annual renewal, you're going to kind of get forced to go onto one of those tiers at that point. But until then, I've still got my limited storage and my G Suite business, whatever I'm on at the moment.
Yeah, that's how it works. So when your renewal comes through, you'll be able to pick. You can update earlier if you want to.
No, I'm good.
But it's up to you. Keep your unlimited space for as long as you need it.
But no, I decided to go with. I had G Suite and I had kind of Gmail myself personally anyway. But I had my business stuff, which was on Office 365, and my own G Suite stuff personally. So I thought, actually, with all the stuff I'm doing now, let's do that with Gmail and G Suite and just see what the other side's like, see what the dark side's like. And it's good. I'm getting to use both of them now, and it's interesting to see the comparisons and differences. I won't get into a whole kind of G Suite versus Office 365 because I think they've both got their kind of unique place in the world. But it's good. I actually understand things a bit more, and particularly with the YouTube channel I'm doing, and actually digging into more of the features so I understand them more, so I can talk about them more. There are some good things for sure in both.
Well, I know you became a big fan of Google Meet anyway, at least.
Yeah, Google Meet was
simplicity.
I think over time it's just simple, and where I'm not in Microsoft Teams every day anymore. When I do join Microsoft Teams meetings, I know it's slow because I have to sit there, wait for the Teams client to load, wait for it to sign in with whichever account, because I've got a few different accounts I'm using Teams for. Whereas, like you say, Google Meet, you just straight in, join the meeting in a browser, you're done.
Yeah. Love stuff in the browser because it's just simple. Just click on it, job done. So let's move on to the news then, guys. So the first news item is about the Five Eyes nations again, still wanting to get backdoors into encrypted software like WhatsApp and Signal and things like that. They always use the story that they want it for to protect child exploitation and terrorism, but it's kind of nonsense because anyone who's into that stuff, they're going to have their own self-built, open source based encrypted chat. And they're not going to let anyone in anyway. So the only reason you want a backdoor is to spy on law-abiding citizens, basically, because any decent criminal is going to have their own system. Any terrorist group is going to have their own encrypted chat. So it's kind of odd why they're still trying to get these weaknesses built into encryption and pushing big companies to make it so they can just spy on the normal person. Any opinions on that?
Yeah, the fear of personal security has been the #1 tool used since civilization started for the removal of personal freedoms. So I've no doubt that you're absolutely right on that, James. I was reading an article the other day that said a lot of times people involved in paedophilia and those aspects which are mentioned in this, what they do is they will log into Gmail, for example, write what they want to write as a draft, and then the other person logs into the account and reads the draft, and so therefore it never moves anywhere. And that's a technique that people have used for these. So as you say, there's always, these people will circumnavigate it. Pedophiles aren't operating in a ring where they may have the skills to write an app, but terrorist groups, if you're a properly funded terrorist group and you know what you want to do, you're right. You're going to get some devs in and you're going to write an app. So
there's plenty of open source projects out there to base it on, so you don't need to start from scratch.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to get someone in who knows what to do and you're going to do that. So yeah, I think these people just want to see what we're up to all the time. And that's not necessarily a good way to be.
They want to go after minor crimes rather than major crimes because it's probably easier to go after the minor crimes, like you haven't paid your TV license or something like that, rather than you planning to blow somewhere up.
Well, as we've seen recently in the news, perhaps the best crime is to have an old television set in a village and turn it on because that destroyed the entire broadband for a village. So
that was an interesting story. That was. Did you see that, Pete?
I did indeed. It's bizarre, absolutely bizarre.
It was. And yeah, I love that one. When people must have said to you, Pete, my broadband's slow. Come on, what are you going to do about it? Fix it. And you said, well, sometimes this stuff happens that's not good enough. That article was the best because you can throw it at anybody now and go, see? Just don't know, okay? So you better go out in
that was quite a common thing with microwaves and Wi-Fi and things like that. Is your microwave in between like you and your wireless access point, and maybe that could be what it's causing it. That's kind of understandable. But yeah, a TV for broadband in a town is just insane.
It's the first thing I thought was when you said that, Kyle, is when we've had it in the past where there have been Wi-Fi issues and you just can't identify them, and it literally just shows it can be anything. Anything can cause a problem with broadband. It can sometimes be something very obvious, but a lot of the times it can be something like, I remember we had a client once who was having very slow broadband, and BT came out with some underground monitoring things apparently, and they were walking around scanning the floors, scanning the cabling underneath the tarmac to see if there was a problem down there. And it turned out what it was as a business at the top of the drive who would just hammer the broadband at certain periods during the time, and that would just kill everyone else's broadband. But there was nothing that could really be done about it, so they just had to put up with it or move to a lease line, which they didn't want to do, and they didn't want to do that, and they didn't remain clients for much longer after that.
No,
they went
a very long time with so my broadband here when I moved into this house was like 4 meg, I think it was. Really struggled with that because I'm like, broadband will come, it'll come eventually, and literally like 4 or 5 years on, still no sign of it coming. And BT came out a number of times. They're like, well, yeah, the problem here is that they've built your line with aluminium in the line, so they kind of get to a point where they stop using copper for whatever reason and start using aluminium, and then they'll switch back to copper again at some point, I guess to save cost or something. Wouldn't fix it, couldn't repair it. It's just kind of is what it is. So literally just had to wait for a very, very long time to them to actually go direct to fiber to the premises, which is fantastic. And I've actually got a gigabit fiber service now, which is just insane, going from 5 meg to a 4 gig within a few years. But it's bizarre how they kind of build their networks out, and BT are just Lawrence themselves completely.
Who are you with? Are you with BT for that gig line, or is that Virgin? Or
they're the only people that will service it. They're the only people that buy it here.
That's certainly interesting. They used aluminium rather than copper, and I guess that had loss of attenuation on the line in the fluctuation of the voltage through it, and that was the problem with it. Interesting. Never heard that one, Pete, but many a time degraded copper cable wet. I remember customers who go, broadband's off when it rained, and I'm like, yeah, because your cable's probably underground and it does get affected. It's probably got rats eating it, and it was just copper. Just having to wait and say, you just got to wait it out, or you can put your hand in your pocket. And that's the funny thing. James would always say, well, see how important this is, Carl. Tell them they can have a lease line. It's 400 notes a month, which isn't crazy for the size of the business. Actually, we're all right. Yeah, not as important as they thought it was, really, was it?
It's also to see how seriously they take their business, because like £400 a month to have broadband, you have to have broadband to run a business. You can't run a business now, especially now without a decent internet connection. So if you're not prepared to pay £400 for a dedicated lease line to get rid of your IT problems, then you don't really have, for me, you don't really have much dedication to your business there, because you don't understand the importance of that connection and how much time you're wasting, because it's more to do with the equation between paying the £400 a month, the amount of time you're wasting per day with broadband that's just not working properly. And if you can't see that, then it's not a great place to be.
It's a struggle though, because you can see all the the cheap offers and cheap deals, and everyone's getting their broadband for like me, I'm paying £50 a month for a gigabit broadband service. So to go from £50 a month to like 400, 500, well, actually for a gigabit service more like 500 or 600 probably. It's a big jump, and it's very difficult to, in simple layman's terms, explain the differences between the £600 a month gigabit service and a consumer gigabit service. There are big differences between them. But just getting them to understand that, and they'll quite happily pay £50 a month for a gigabit service. They can see the value in that. Very difficult to kind of give them the value of the £600 a month similar gigabit service.
For sure, it is a big jump. It's a mental roadblock.
It's the same sort of value that they would place on a backstreet doctor or the highest quality of medical care if they needed to have open heart surgery. Which one would you choose then? Well, that went silent.
To be honest, I didn't hear your question. I was reading the next news item.
Let's bring the next news article on then, James. Bring it on.
Well, the next news item came up in my reader. It's actually from our client Informed Accounting, and it's about HMRC has opened a online portal for working from home expenses claims. So there's a lot of people that won't know about this, but you don't need any evidence actually to show it. You just need to show that your bills have increased, and you can apply for a tax relief on costs above the unless on anything that's below £6 per week on a flat rate, with no evidence required. So uniforms, things like that, you can just go in there and claim against it, which I wasn't aware of, and I think we should go and claim some tax back because we haven't done it. Working from home.
I've had a look already. I'm trying to find where I can do that, James. I looked yesterday. I want my 200 quid.
Agents can't do it, so your accountant can't actually go and do it for you. You've got to
do it yourself.
And apply it yourself. But I thought I'd just put that in there just because I know loads of people don't use it. So go and have a search for HMRC's portal for working from home if you want to claim some expenses, if you're all of a sudden you're working from home.
But once again, from the looks of the notes there, this does not apply if you're a director who declares dividends. That's most business out the picture there.
Yeah, we're out the picture, James. Can't do it.
Yeah, it's annoying that. We always get punished, don't we, as directors? Wealth generators.
Thought throughout everything? I don't know if you've gone for the bounce back loans or anything along those lines.
No,
I don't want to borrow money. It means literally, I get what you mean. It's cheap credit, but ultimately we've got to pay it back. And so it would be just like taking money. Yeah.
Well, we don't need the money.
The funny thing about it, there was nothing available to us, and James and I continued to work throughout the entirety of lockdown, like I'm sure many people in the IT industry did, because you can. And it's odd, you see how much the criminals have stolen with the grants at the start and stuff like that, and then you're trying to graft it out as an honest citizen, and you're just like, sometimes, but
there was a technology grant that was announced about a month or so ago, up to $5,000 per business to spend on technology, but trying to apply for that seems to be impossible. You had a go, Carl, and it just couldn't get anywhere, could you, with Birmingham Council?
Eventually, James, yes, I managed to get somebody from the LEP for the Birmingham region to talk to me. Eventually, you got to have a minimum of 5 employees, 5 to 9 employees. So we were out on that one because we don't have enough staff.
So no new Samsung phones for us then.
Yeah, exactly. No new phones for us. That's what we wanted.
Next story is about disgruntled employees and the damage they can do. So I find this interesting because the vast majority of people always talk about how attacks and damage are going to be from external, and actually I don't think that's true. I think you're far more likely to get an employee have a bad day, mess up and let somebody in unintentionally, or you will get a disgruntled one that's had enough, not happy, and they just want to cause some damage before they go. And businesses don't really think about that at all. The best example is if you go into a lot of businesses, is based on what we actually spoke about in the podcast previously, permission levels, the amount of employees that have access to stuff they shouldn't have access to just because they've got no, especially in small businesses, they've got no one in there keeping an eye on the permissions. Now, we can do as much as we can as an IT company, but we're not in there every single day. So we don't know if Grace needs to have elevated access to a file for a few days. They'll just give her that access and then they'll never take it back a few days later. So she'll have access to that file for the rest of her time there. And it's really interesting, disgruntled employee, because no one ever talks about them. It's always, you're going to be your details will be on the dark web, and we'll do a dark web scan for it, which you can't do anyway. And it's never ever talking about someone inside your business is going to be the problem.
It's normally the one on the last day. It's the phone call to the IT department and say this guy's leaving or this girl's leaving, slightly, and they're going to go a bit rogue. So can you just be on the end of the phone and lock them down as soon as I kind of give you the nod? That's the most common experience.
Yeah. You never get a week's notice or anything like that, even though they know fully well that this person's going to be leaving at some point. It's always last minute. Oh, so and so's left, and you just suspend their account. Okay, that's like 6 hours after they left and all that kind of stuff. Or if you're lucky, it's just before they left. But sometimes you get it a couple of days. Oh yeah, didn't you know that? No, because no one told us that so and so had left. How are we supposed to know?
Yeah, that's the main thing. That's probably the biggest security concern of all. Because we've seen that numerous times, and I've certainly seen that numerous times. People will leave the company, they won't bother telling their IT company, and then 6 months later, you'll kind of go through the active user logins on the server. Go, why are all these people still here? Well, because you never told us about them. So they're all still live, active. They can still log in. They could have still got to their email accounts. They're a normal user. You've just not they've left.
Yeah, so it's this IT paradox where we're all psychic if you work in the IT industry and you know exactly what's going on everywhere.
And there are ways around them, and something I implemented a while back was we in like monthly IT reports, you just show them a list of active users, and then you can try and mop them up that way. Or on the invoices, show them all the users they've been billed for, because then they'll be paying for them as well, which is more of a kick to not pay for them, to get rid of them.
It's interesting that, because we do charge on a per user basis, so the invoices do say how many users you're getting charged for and stuff like that. But no one ever comes back. They don't check them.
No, it is rare that happens. It becomes habitually paid. Particularly because we use direct debit as well. So even the flow of it is literally going to be someone scan, oh yeah, that's Kimberly IT, no worries, know who they are, and away it goes, and they just don't notice. But that is their responsibility to inform their provider of the changes in their own business. We're not psychic, and we shouldn't be responsible for using a technical report in order to cover their inability to monitor their own staff movements. You know, I'm not their parent. So we don't do it. And I feel where you've come from, because in my previous company, I did some of those things at the behest of the MD, and I used to argue it doesn't work. You know, it doesn't. And eventually he got it. He said, yeah, they don't change it. I said, no, so don't worry about it. That's their problem. I
do go for everyone's account, normally about quarterly, and look through all users and see which haven't logged in for a while. And then I'll actually tell them there's one client that's currently got 6 people who've left. I've told them they've left. I've spoken directly to them that they've left. What do you want to do with the accounts? Do you want to have them suspended or what? Oh, it's okay. Just leave them there for the time being. It's like, seriously, you don't want to do that. So I actually go in and suspend the account anyway without them saying so. I'll just suspend it because I know if anyone needs that. The nice thing is I like to suspend the accounts because that's the best way of telling if an account's being used or not. Because if you suspend an account, you're going to know in a week or so. Someone comes, I need access to that still, and you know it's still being used. I would love to have a way. It's not on G Suite, but it'd be nice if there was a way to, after X amount of time of no activity, no login, just suspend this account.
Yeah.
And just so people will contact us, and then we can just re-enable the account. But yeah, it's surprising. The nice thing is we have now got a new archive feature for users in Google Workspace. So before, when you suspended an account, it was still charged at the full amount. But when you archive a user now, it basically goes into cold storage, and it's probably about a quarter of the price that you pay per month for that. So a lot of clients now just suspend the user rather than deleting the account, because so many are worried that I'm going to need this data again in a few years' time. And you're not going to. Trust me, you're not going to need that data. No one ever goes back to that data because it's inside the user's account. And also we can transfer that away from that user to some other user that's active. But it's interesting how people just don't seem to care about that kind of stuff.
More important things, I'm sure. Like even the business at the moment.
Yeah, well, a question about what you used to do. Did you ever worry you may have a Tekkers employee go rogue? I used to worry sometimes I had 11 staff, and I was like, well, what if one of my team just lost it because they've got access to access?
Not really. I think going back to what James was saying in terms of access permissions, so only having them access the data they need to have access to, that's part of the cybersecurity essentials and all these kind of things. Minimum permissions they needed. And we had quite a robust, and it was evolving every single time we did it, onboarding and offboarding. So when someone was leaving, we make sure we offboard them properly, and when they were joining, we kind of set the permissions up correctly along the way. So no real issues. And I think certainly throughout the majority of the time we were running the company, it was still very much, it was a small business, family friendly, like everyone kind of knew each other and got on. So there were probably less of a concern that someone was going to go rogue because we were all just friends, effectively. That's probably the easiest way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, that totally understand.
You're not planning to go rogue, are you, Kyle?
I think you've already said I have, but there you go.
We got plenty of. We're on G Suite Enterprise. So there's plenty of things on there. Plenty of things monitoring what you do. It always tells me when you.
James, the reason I raise it is that you and I do use individual logins for all the services that we access to support and look after our clients. So it's accountable. I am accountable in what I do. So it's pretty easy for James to actually know if I've gone rogue because he can see it. And of course, when you scale that out, it's very easy to get in the habit in an IT company of just having a login. We see that with customers who've got a login to an accountancy package, and they go, "Who's got access to that?" Well, actually, 6 employees do, and some of them are quite junior and they've just started. And we have to help. We then use password managers so that those employees actually don't know what the login is, but they can still use the service. And it's those kind of questions that you have to ask sometimes.
Yeah, common one, something like HMRC, in that they seem to share logins for HMRC quite frequently. Yeah. But again, done through a password manager, so they hopefully can't see what the actual password is if they were to leave. But typically, they're the accountants. I do find the accountants are, without doubt, the most switched on to when someone leaves and stuff like that. They will tell you pretty much straight away and just to suspend all access and stuff like that. Marketing agencies are pretty much the worst when it comes down to it, telling you when someone's left or someone's started. You always know when someone started because they need an account, but you never know when someone's left. So there's definitely a pattern in the industries.
Indeed.
Next story is one of yours, Kyle. COVID-19 has resurrected the woeful tech of home printers.
I'm afraid that it has. The huge intake in work from home, which was put upon us earlier this year, has meant that the blasted printer has made a resurgence in the world. Because, of course, there are people who've left offices who love a print. I still know a couple of old school people who print emails, and I've tried talking to him about it. He's improved. The chap now uses his pad. So I've got somewhere with him that he understood with the pad. But yeah, printers have gone home and sales have gone up. And ironically, they've seen, so manufacturing and sales of these small printers has increased. And the market for copiers is not looking very good for those people who sell copiers now.
That's correct.
Because, yeah, you can't have a copier at home, and many businesses aren't doing. Oh, look.
Oh, no. For all the listeners out there,
end the podcast now.
Pete has just bought a box up of a new Epson printer. What are you doing, Pete?
We've not had a printer in this house for, well, ever. And I was really not wanting to get one, but my wife really wanted one to print some of her coursework out. So yeah, we bought like 50 quid or something. Just found a reasonable, cheap, but does the job printer. Noisy, takes ages to print.
We have a phrase that we tell all our clients: don't print unless you have to post it. I can't see of any other reason why you should print.
All right. I was going to put my hand up there and say I have printed this morning, and I was going to, say I did it. But the reason is I'm
off you trot.
I sell a few things on eBay that are around the house, and of course you've got to print the labels to that. That's an occasion.
That's fine because you're posting.
Yes, I am posting. That's why I thought you would then reinstate me now, because I'm posting.
You're back in the business.
Thanks.
But yeah, I just don't get printing unless you're posting it, because, as you said, you can use it on a tablet, which is essentially a piece of paper. It's just, that's what a tablet's all about. I can't understand why people find it difficult reading stuff on a monitor, like reading an email and they've got to print it off to read it. I just can't get the logic behind that. If it's something to do with eyesight or whatever, I just can't understand that.
You know what the worst thing about this trend is as well, James, that the trend is showing that the #1 sale of printers is the all-in-one device, because people are using them to scan. And as we've,
there we go, all-in-one.
Well, that's probably not because Pete wanted to scan, but because they're the cheap end of the market, to be honest with you. And the thing is, what we've said, why are you using a scanner when you've got a phone which can scan straight to Google Drive with a photograph? It's not like you're scanning, 50 documents in a feeder that are running through. This is the odd page, but yet people are still having their mind that the phone isn't the scanner, yet it's
because a lot
some legal paperwork for moving my car lease over, and that was like a 30-page document or something. Yeah, much easier to find a document scanner and feeder that just feeds it in. Duplex, obviously, both printed on both sides. That was way easier. So I actually went around my parents' house and they had a duplex scanner there.
I accept that. If you're an accountancy firm that scans in the client's paperwork every day, then fair enough, you've got to have an automatic document feeder, and most of them do. But this is people working at home who are buying these devices to scan the odd A4 piece of paper, and there's no need. There's zero need for that.
Well, a lot of it is like with Pete's lease there. The problem is the form's incorrect. The form that you needed to fill in should have been an online form. It shouldn't have been a paper form.
Long discussion. Well, I say long. It's probably like a 2-minute discussion with them. But they are such a big entity, apparently, that they are working their way through the process of going digital. It's just like, yeah, but surely you can take a PDF signature. Like, no, we can't do that yet. It's not policy.
Yeah, they need to take a look at the Colgate Palmolive move to Google Workspace. Yeah, you can. Get your finger out. 6 months planning and 48 hours done. So no excuses, big companies.
This is VW Finance, so yeah, get onto them.
Oh, don't talk to us about the car industry. We have a customer in the car industry. Don't get us started on checking.
They are so dated.
There are several manufacturers of vehicles, one in particular, that require every time this customer repairs the bodywork of that vehicle, they must go onto the portal and print on paper the instructions on how to do it. Yet the engineer has done this for 20 years, and they have to file that paper to say that they know how to replace the bumper. Every time they replace a bumper. Ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. The customer has got massive vaults for storing paper for purely that purpose.
It is just crazy. It is crazy.
Yeah.
Next story is about the classic Game Boy.
Yeah, this was just something that piqued my interest, that a set of clever people have made a Game Boy that can be completely powered by you pressing and moving the buttons using your hands. So it's using the energy from the player. And although at the moment it says that sometimes it will randomly turn off, it will resave the game. It's the first I've seen of this, and it makes a lot of sense. And hopefully we'll see a lot more devices that are able to do this in the future that are going to utilize. I mean, imagine us playing when you're playing Stadia or you're playing your console. Well, why have to charge it up if when you're using it, you can use the kinetic movement of your body to charge the device and therefore never have to recharge? And this seems like the beginning of that technology.
But you're also getting exercise while you're sitting down doing nothing normally. You'd be sitting down eating a packet of crisps playing on a console, but now you're going to have to move around just to keep the power going.
No, it's good for your thumbs, isn't it? It's using that. There's energy.
Yeah,
but that's what it's taking.
You could take that a step further and make the console about exercise, but if they've had those in the past, like the handheld Wii Fits and stuff like that, but actually this now powers the controller or something like that.
They have done it. It's called an Oculus.
Yeah, true. It doesn't power by your human energy though.
Not not quite yet.
Isn't there? If I remember, wasn't one of the first Black Mirrors about that? That if you cycled on the bike and powered, you didn't get the adverts in your life in your cube that you lived in. It was pretty.
Yeah, there was an episode about that.
Yeah, I remember that one. It was pretty horrible. But yeah, I like the look of this, James. New technology, and I can only see it improving.
So next one is someone's bought the Social Dilemma Network's film with a
I had that one in.
question mark.
It might be a timely thing. Just I've Social Dilemma's quite a recent addition to Netflix, I think, and I just saw a lot of people commenting and posting that they were shocked and surprised with what they saw. I don't know. Have you guys watched it yet?
Yeah, I watched it. It was interesting because I think they had the founder of Gmail and stuff like that on it as well. They were interviewing. So yeah, we did watch it. It was a good film.
I mean, I watched it. I didn't quite have the awakening that I had when what was the other social film that came out probably about a year or two ago?
I can't remember the name, but I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
Which had Brittany Kaiser and how they kind of rigged the election and all those kind of things. I didn't find the Social Dilemma as surprising. I mean, I kind of watched it and went, yeah, I know that. Like, of course they want to try and keep it on the platform. Of course they're going to show you the content that keeps you, scrolling and swiping onto the next thing and tapping the next thing. And you happen to watch videos, so we're going to show you more videos. It's kind of, yeah, that's surely their prerogative is to keep you on their platform.
It's not surprising for us because it's what we're in, the IT industry and promoting and marketing our businesses. But I think it's quite surprising for just your average user who's on Facebook and doesn't realize the tricks that are being done there to keep them on the platform and Instagram. I think for a normal person, it would be surprising.
I think regular folks are quite surprised when you tell them that the app can tell how long you've scrolled for, exactly how long you paused and looked at something. Like, they don't realize that level of analytic is being taken. But I agree, Pete. I mean, ultimately, what did you expect? Anything for free, therefore, has some payoff, and the payoff is that this business is advertising to you. Well, we've all been advertised to throughout our lives. Written newspapers, radio, television. We've been advertised to. So this is nothing different to that. And I felt mostly it was Facebook. When it had those three guys as the different types, I thought, well, how does that relevant to Twitter? And I thought, I can't really see how that. Like, Twitter's not going to kill my life. Facebook might mess around with it a bit. Instagram might mess with it a little bit, but ultimately it was showing a set of humans that sort of didn't have any control, any self-control of their choices. And that's not to say that members of the general public don't have that, but that's what you need to do, is just have a little bit of self-control and say, no, I'm just going to put that down, or recognize it for what it is. But it was a good movie. I enjoyed it.
I think that's where the other film was more scary, because that's actually talking about warping your own beliefs and personalities and targeting your weak spots, for election purposes. But you can also target a certain type of audience to then warp their beliefs. And it just that was the scary thing. You can change people's understanding and beliefs and core part of who they are by just targeting enough of the right people and changing the audience. That's the scary kind of thought.
Yes, you were right about that, because this year you only have to see the COVID conspiracy types to see how. I mean, I've got one who's in the other side of my family, and she just believes this stuff, and it's crazy, the stuff that gets posted, and then I have to be careful that doesn't feed down to my daughters in some way, because it's ridiculous. Some of the stuff that people believe is crazy. And the YouTube rabbit hole doesn't help them, because that algorithm inadvertently generates more of that until eventually that bias becomes a belief system. And yeah, you're right. On that side, it is worrying that those who are a little bit weak-minded can be completely converted into something.
I think some platforms have.
You feel like you should just say, no, obviously not. But then you actually have to go and do your research and say, and this is why, which you shouldn't.
I've tried with some conspiracy people, and I've had to stop because they've gone beyond. They will not listen. It is a Marmite. It is Marmite. It is like religion and politics, as they say. Don't argue those. Well, you want to throw in conspiracy theories to that mix now because you can't change those people. They'll just fight back at you harder, and you just wasted your energy.
My window cleaner, he's a big conspiracy theorist.
Is he?
He's convinced that Michelle Obama's a bloke. That the royal family are reptilians. He's proper. I've only ever spoken to him once. Well, a couple of times. Once to pay him, but I actually went outside once when he was there, and I got caught. And it was like I was stuck there for half an hour just listening to these conspiracy theories, and I was just going, "Come on, someone, please call my mobile phone. Please get me out of here." So I avoid him now. I just come to the front door to pay him, and then off you trot. I'm not talking about your nonsense anymore. But let's move on now to something that won't be nonsense. It's conversation time with Pete. So it's all about you, Pete. So I thought we'd have a discussion about working from anywhere, setups, good technology and advice to use, while throwing in some questions for you. But let's start off. Tell us about yourself. Tell the listeners about who you are, a bit about Tekkers IT that you set up and what you're doing at the moment.
It's a bit late. We're like 45 minutes into the podcast by now, aren't we?
Yeah. It's the way we do it. Backwards.
I am Pete. So yeah, I've recently sold my IT company and a managed service provider company based on the South Coast in the UK. We basically did IT support for small to medium businesses. Set it up in 2011, so at the very, very tail end of the last recession, and seemingly exited at the very beginning of possibly the next recession. And that's kind of really one of the reasons it kind of triggered the decision to sell, because we had spent so long building the business and kind of building up a great reputation locally and all this kind of stuff. And we were thinking, well, we're going to do this for the next kind of 2 decades. Is this going to take us through to traditional retirement? When you get kind of old and are expected to retire. Or actually, if we did it now, then we could enjoy some time off with our kids. We've got a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. So our 4-year-old, he's almost 5 in 1 month's time. So he's just started school. We thought, actually, we can get maybe a decade of actually enjoying time with them, having some holidays, some more spare time, and just taking the pressure off. So we're not, we weren't selling to retire indefinitely. We couldn't afford to, but we could actually kind of have, like a half retirement or semi-retirement where we can just take it a lot easier. Of course, things like the mortgage, we can hopefully pay that off. We're tied in for now, but we'll hopefully pay that off. And it just gives us a much more relaxing lifestyle going forward. There's no pressure to go out and earn that full-time income, certainly for a while anyway. So it's just the pressure's completely off. Unfortunately, it didn't quite happen in the way we thought and hoped, in terms of a lockdown happened 2 weeks later. So we didn't quite get any of the holidays and all those kind of things that we were hoping to do, but we did get the time with the family. Probably too much time with the family. Every day was out bike riding with the kids and all that kind of stuff, which was absolutely fantastic. And I think they've absolutely loved it, because of course, you've had both your parents there for 6 months effectively. So that's been really good. But going back to the reasons in terms of, yes, the family time, but we had a good, almost a decade of running the business. And we were just thinking, it's kind of been too good for the last decade. Yes, obviously there are, massive ups and downs when you run your own business, but there's been no big kind of world events that have happened that caused anything. No recessions. So like something's, I just feel like something's going to happen next year. Not quite to the scale of what did happen, but we just thought, well, let's, we're on top now. Effectively, we're certainly doing well, and the business is growing. Let's sell at the peak time. And I went to one of the vendors I work with was Datto. We went to their DattoCon, which is one of their big kind of presentation, which is in Paris last year.
Yeah,
and one of the, so they run loads of little sessions. One of the sessions was about buying and selling, M&A, mergers and acquisitions. And I actually went to that with the thought of, maybe we could buy another company, to help grow the business and grow it and what have you. And throughout all the discussions going on, I think they did raise your hands if you're looking to sell your business. And there's like one person in the room raised their hand, and everyone else in the room was looking to buy businesses. So again, that kind of put the thought in my mind of, actually, now's a real seller's market. If you want to sell your business, now's the time to do it. Whereas I imagine now it's probably more of a buyer's market because I don't think any IT companies are struggling. There are going to be some unfortunate ones that are just working with niches that are really recruitment firms. I'm sure will have reduced a lot. So it's just going to be those unfortunate firms, but there's plenty of opportunity now to acquire probably at more affordable rates than there were previous to this. So yeah, that's pretty much my kind of journey in a nutshell. I've always been an engineer. So my time before Tekkers was being an engineer at another local company and just kind of worked my way up. So I've got a very technical background, and then obviously kind of started my own business where you realise all the techie stuff, but no idea about finance, marketing, accounts, sales, like all of that kind of stuff that you have to learn how to price things. It's very, very interesting world out there, as I'm sure you're both aware of running your own business as well.
So what's your... Okay, go ahead, Carl. You jump in.
That's a really interesting story, Pete, and in some way, it's kind of a reflection of where I came to Kimberley IT from as well. I left my previous business not in the sense that I wished to sell it. I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't enough of a shareholder, and in fact, I left in a situation that was sort of forced upon me, but it was the right time because the stress of that operation was really impacting my personal life. And I've got a 5-year-old and 4-year-old this Thursday, and the last 3 years have been awesome because I've seen my kids so much and the lack of stress that I have compared to how I used to work. So I think the move you made is the best choice. Absolutely. I totally hear where you're coming because you could have rolled with it and gone, right, we're going to take on a recession. We'll go through it. We'll win. We'll make more money and we'll come out the game at 55, 60, loads of money. But you know what? It won't have been worth it. What you've done now is the best decision in my personal perspective that you could have taken. And I just find it interesting. Pete's background is similar to mine, engineering, technician, worked his way up. I talk about marketing with James, and James has sometimes gone, ugh. I'm shaking my head, listeners, here on that one. And I learn slowly. And then occasionally there's a tech problem, and he'll just chuck it my way. And I'm like a dog with a bone. Yes, I've got one to have a crack at.
Always the printers. Printers always come your way.
Printers, and at the moment, like, how do we move a workstation or a server into Google Cloud? Like, how do we shift and lift into Google Cloud? And I'm like, I'll have that one. I'll take that on because it's in your nature. If you're a technician at heart, it tends to stick with you forever. And so learning those new skills is tricky.
Yeah, I think for me, because my background in technical stuff was just I like helping. I like fixing things. I like helping people. So that's the whole thing. I love fixing things and everyone's happy and they get back on with their work. And, I love fixing problems regardless of whether it's IT or whether it's like a fundamental kind of business operations or strategy or, finding the best approach for them, which is great because I can, you can get that in all walks of life with not just technical stuff, but other things. And that's kind of what's taken me on to, what I'm doing now after, which is loads of other people have now approached me, having run my business for a decade, saying, well, can you help us fix our problems and do the same that you've done to your business with our business? I've gone, great, yeah, that's all the fun stuff with none of the stress of staff and customers and finance and all that kind of stuff. So crack on, yeah, happy to.
Actually, what's jumped to mind here, James, is that the world of entrepreneurs and gurus, we need Pete out there really because he's actually got a proven track record, as opposed to some of the other people in our industry who are selling marketing and whatnot skills who have got no record or understanding and are completely failed.
That was one of the out there. Here in particular, there's a lot of business coaches, and I hate the word business coach, but there's a load of business coaches that have never run businesses themselves. Action coach, I have a personal pet peeve against because majority of which have never run their own businesses, but they'll go on training for it. There was one company I was looking at because now I'm unofficially coaching people. I thought maybe I should have coaching training to know how to do it properly. And they said they had action coaches approach them all the time because they'll be in like 100 grand's worth of debt having gone through the action coaching program and then not have any clients to then pay off the debt. It seems like an MLM scheme. Personal.
You shouldn't have any training on coaching. You should just make it up as you go along. You've got the personality to do it. So.
On the basis that we've kind of got where we got to, without any. And I've openly said I'm winging it all the time. Every day we're winging it and making stuff up. It just means that we've made up more right stuff than wrong stuff over time. So it's just a learning case. And, if I can help someone make those right decisions and help them through those decisions. And it's not really coaching. It's the way I'm kind of running with it is that it's me working with like their businesses. So if they come to me with problems, I'll explain how I would have dealt with it and how I will deal with it. And they can go off and do with that as they wish. If they want to use it, then great. If not, then absolutely fine. So there's no, I'm not doing contracts. This isn't a sales pitch or anything, but I'm not doing any contracts. It's just if people want to work with me, then awesome. Like rock on. Let's crack on with stuff. If they don't, no worries. Move on, and then whoever wants to work with me can do.
I guess that moves on to the next question about your plan over the next 5 years. I guess is the coaching part and the YouTube the main two things that you're going to be focusing on?
Pretty much. It was weird actually, because going through the whole sales process and being in Tekkers for so long, you know, I was overworked. I was one of those people that go home, wife and kids would go to bed. I'd get my laptop out and carry on working, because the thought in the back of your mind is, oh, if I work out a little bit more, I can make a little bit more money and grow the business more and be more successful, and you know, all the stuff that comes with a bigger business. And it's tough work. And now I'm out the other end of that. I can quite easily see that that was a problem for me. I think it was not necessarily a good or bad problem, either way, because it's just how I enjoy things. And I think I'm just a self-confessed workaholic. I can quite easily throw myself into something new and crack on with what it was. But I couldn't see beyond the day of us selling the business. You know, even our solicitor was you know, asking us, what are you going to do next? Because I need to write it into your contract and, you know, make sure you're allowed to do it and what have you. But well, I just don't really know, because this has been my whole life for a decade. I can't really see what I'm going to do next year. Maybe this deal won't go through. Maybe it'll fall through. Maybe a pandemic will maybe happen 2 weeks earlier and screw the whole thing up. You just don't know what's going to come. So my kind of initial thought was, I'm going to do IT strategy for, you know, bigger businesses. I could just run in, again, similar things now, but just do IT strategy for bigger businesses, and then bring an MSP, bring an IT company in to then do the work, do all the kind of the legwork. And that was my go-to. And I've done a bit of that. And then, of course, there's the YouTube work that, again, I thought I was going to continue, but I didn't know what, and I still don't know how that's going to go. I've run a YouTube channel for, I think it's 2 years, actually. October 2018, I started my YouTube channel. And it took us 18 months, I think, to get to like 500 subscribers. We're now adding 500 every single month. So we're trying to kind of, I'm trying to look a lot more at the stats in that. It's different when you run a YouTube channel for a business versus running it as a business in itself. Because when I was running it with my business in mind, it's not, the target isn't to get a ton of subscribers, because most of those don't care about. The target is to get subscribers that are your audience that you care about. Because even if you've only got 20, 50, 100 subscribers, well, that's 20, 50 or 100 people that are listening to your messages every single week. They could buy from you in future. You just don't know where it's going to go. And it's such a different change to your marketing. You know, I would always say, you know, whenever you're going to like events or you're doing speaking slots, whatever it is go to our YouTube channel, because if you subscribe to that channel, you've got them for life, or, you know, as long as they're a subscriber. Whereas if you're trying to get them to fill in like a lead gen form or whatever else is going on, you've lost that. They're probably not going to do it. And even if they do it, you'll forget about it, or they'll forget about you in a month or two's time. So YouTube is really, really interesting. And when you start looking at YouTube as its own business, you look at the stats, you look at what performs really well, you try and make more content around what performs well. So yes, of course, the channel can grow really, really quickly. And YouTube for me has that exponential, like ridiculous, insane exponential growth potential. I've seen so many stories of people that have gone from, you know, they as soon as they monetize their channel at 1,000 subscribers, they've gone from, you know, a few £100s a month through to thousands of pounds, through to tens of thousands of pounds within a matter of a few months. It's absolutely crazy how quickly it can grow. So I'm kind of keeping that as my bit in my back pocket that I really kind of want to focus on. But equally, it's still fun for me. I still love the process. I love creating videos. I love all the editing process. It's just fun. And I think I'm going to carry on doing it as long as I can whilst it's fun. And if it grows into something, then fantastic. I've had people approach me with sponsorship offers and brand deals and those kind of things. And that's all new to me. I've never dealt with that before. And I've done some video editing work for some other people. One of our suppliers, my last business, they approached me to do a release video for them. So they released version like 2.2 or whatever of their software. They actually paid me to do a proper video for them. So that was a first, being paid for video editing work and being the face for them effectively. So that's got a ton of prospects for me, absolutely a ton. And I'm really excited to see where that goes. And then this business coaching thing for me, I recently read the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And that is all about kind of what it says on the tin. I mean, it's basically working 4 hours a week. But that's, again, made me kind of realize and reiterate that I should be trying to focus more on a proper life balance rather than just kind of work life where you're trying to, you know, divvy up between the two. Is actually focus on the life more first, and the work just helps support it. And it's easy for me to say, obviously, having sold the business, and I've, you know, obviously got a bit of money now, I can afford to do that for a while at least. But I've got the time, and that's the important thing. I've got the time to try and engineer something going forward. And thankfully, things just seem to be kind of fitting into place in terms of the coaching. So if I can do that across the next 5 years and grow that, then fantastic. Maybe the YouTube stuff will carry on from there. But I'm pretty much just open to seeing what's going to go on. You never know which way the world's going to go, particularly nowadays. So we'll just see where we go. But end goal is work less, enjoy life more with family and friends, and just keep on doing that, really.
So, Pete, because now you're working from home on these two businesses, assuming you've got a computer, what other bit of technology is going to be most vital for you to be able to do what you plan to do over the next 5 years? You've got a computer, but which other one piece of technology would be the most important thing for you to be able to continue working from home?
See, my go-to would probably be a phone. But I also kind of detest a phone at the same time. I hate being contactable 24/7 and notifications and all that kind of social media stuff that comes along with it. I would love to get rid of my phone and not have it and just not have the distraction. I think we were on holiday in Centre Parks one year and my phone broke on the first day, and I actually really enjoyed it because I literally could not see anything. I think the first thing I did was get out my iPad and then order another phone that was going to be here the end of the week waiting for me at home. But at least for that week I got to switch off completely. So my go-to would probably be a phone, but not really by choice.
Phone's a good pick actually, because the YouTube you've got a good quality camera on there to carry on recording your videos if you had nothing else about. So
music, photos, videos, like you can get to everything on it.
So what's your favorite bit of technology you've ever had?
Favorite bit? I guess my favorite is probably my car actually, the Tesla car, because that's the amount of technology that's in there and continually updating and developing and getting better. It's just incredible. I don't think there's been an industry go through that much of a change probably since the day of the iPhone. When that got launched and all the industries, Samsung started copying the handsets and everyone else started copying the whole no buttons approach. So I think Tesla and the whole electric car kind of revolution that's kind of happening and is in the process at the moment is probably my favorite tech.
It's interesting because we have a supercar repair center as a client, and you're less of a mechanic now. You need to be more of a technician to be able to actually control the systems and stuff like that, because the mechanical parts inside the car are massively reduced. It's something like 20 or so mechanical bits inside that car, and then compared to a traditional car, we'd have like 2,000 mechanical bits.
Exactly. It's just a motor. There's a motor on each of the wheels now, and pretty much if anything else comes wrong, the computer tells you. So then you just go back to a service station and they plug a computer into it and fix the computer with the computer, and you're done.
Yep. Have you? What's the build quality like on the Teslas?
It's improving. It definitely is improving. I've, without sounding big-headed, this is my third one now. So we had two through the business because of the massive tax savings you get when buying electric through a business.
Yep.
There were some build quality issues. There are still a couple of bits on mine. I haven't bothered. One of the doors is slightly not aligned, but I think the issue with the build quality side of things, it's not as bad as a lot of people make out. But because electric cars are so much more expensive on list price, that everyone has a very high expectation. And I had that with my first car that I picked up. It was like an £80,000 car. How dare they get some door seal slightly aligned, and how dare there be a gap there, because this is an £80,000 car. There shouldn't be these problems. So, this is from a guy that's not really owned a car that's been over, even leasing probably wasn't over £20,000 before. So I've gone from being, a normal kind of, I guess, working class, let's call it, kind of car, through to suddenly like a prestige premium brand. And your probably expectations vastly overweigh what actually is reality. And actually all these car brands have problems. I've seen so many posts about Audis and BMWs and all sorts of other luxury cars. Maybe not the Lamborghini side of things, but again, they're an extra 100 or 200,000 pounds more than the Teslas. So it's kind of sitting in this unique market at the moment. And
you'd be surprised the stories we could tell you about McLarens.
Well, there's a lot more workmanship in those, and there's a lot more kind of handcrafted work, I think, in a lot of those as well. Still, so there's error.
Handcrafted is probably right, but yeah, even the top end cars we've seen from working with our client, that they all suffer the same issues. Yeah, and the Tesla build is improving, and the technology is improving now as well. And what we've had to help give to this customer in order to be able to service and maintain those vehicles has been really interesting.
Well, Tesla have got a gigafactory that's being built in Berlin at the moment, so that's going to improve a lot. So at the moment, the cars are built in the States. They are, I believe, they're then dismantled and then shipped over and then reassembled. I think it's Tilburg, is it? So they reassemble them and then ship them to the UK. So they actually build the cars, take them apart, put them back together again, and then ship them over. Whereas Germany, obviously, they'll just be able to build them and
that's
ship
probably
them.
where the door alignment problems are coming from.
Most likely.
Taking it apart and rebuilding it. The most interesting part I found about Tesla is when they're in the service station, they have to be geo-fenced so that people like you can't go and turn them on and turn the cameras on and see what's going on inside the car while it's being repaired.
Yes. So they essentially disable the communication. There's literally a switch on. You can just disable it.
They removed the switch, I think, because didn't our client have to have it geo-fenced? because the switch was no longer there on the car. There was something on the latest versions that the switch that they used to flick wasn't on the car anymore. So we were talking about Faraday cages and stuff like that, and then they geofenced the perimeter instead.
Yeah, the way it worked, James, was that they used to be able to, at the service centre, switch the car into maintenance mode for them to be able to maintain it. Remove the ability for you to do that. The car will put itself into maintenance mode when it enters the geofence location and removes access for the end user to use the cameras. And that's what used to happen. They turn the cameras on and have a look, see what's going on.
You couldn't ever watch cameras on Teslas unless you'd fitted your own little device in there somehow. You couldn't ever watch the feeds remotely, that's for sure. It was stored like a little USB drive in the car.
It might have been to do then with the summon mode or something like that, in case you decided to stand outside and summon the car.
Something like
worked on or something like that.
You left the key fob in the car, you could then summon it from anywhere. So I could literally, other side of the country and summon the car and make it go forward. So that's probably quite a wise thing to turn off.
Maybe that's what it was. It was something like that, but they can't do that anymore now.
So Pete, you got any famous people that you admire in the world that you look up to?
Famous people. I mean, in technology, probably the likes of, Steve Jobs of Apple. That's just an incredible journey and process, given that he's not had a technical background, myself being technical, and building a business that's a technical business is quite a difficult job. So if you can manage to do that without being technical, that's quite a great achievement in itself. Any other famous people, I guess? I don't know. Maybe like Travis Barker from music kind of stuff, drummer of Blink-182 and all sorts of other kind of side things. I'm a drummer and hopefully actually going to get time to get back into it again. So he inspired me in my music a lot in the early days. Anyone else? No, that's probably about it really. I don't really do much with I'm useless with names for a start. I'm not one of those people that can watch a film and go like, oh, that's so and so. I don't know about their names.
I'm glad I didn't have a bet on this. I was convinced that you'd say Elon Musk.
Travis Barker's Joe Rogan's very good, by the way, Pete. If you haven't listened to that one, it's very good.
Elon Musk is an interesting one because he's obviously very, very switched on, but also slightly unhinged.
I love the stuff he does. It's very inspiring. So, final question. So you're on the desert island, Pete. There's no hope of rescue whatsoever. No external communications. What would be the 3 devices that you'd take with you?
Satellite phone? Is a phone rescue? Or is that not allowed because there's no hopes of rescue?
Yeah, there's no hopes of rescue, so what's the point? That's the wasting space in your suitcase.
Probably a mobile phone again, because again, you've got memories on there, family photos, videos, all that kind of stuff. I'll probably go with that.
Yep.
If you did ever get a phone signal, you can then phone somebody and get a Domino's pizza or something. Solar charger, I guess, because you need someone to keep that charged, because that's the old, from all the films, it's like, oh, my phone's run out of battery, you can't use it anymore. So probably a solar charger. And then I guess that only leaves one thing. A heated sleeping bag, because I'm just the kind that would just curl up and hibernate for like 6 months and quite easily just stay asleep for 6 months. Wait it out.
A smart heated sleeping bag. Control it by your mobile phone.
Exactly, yeah. And plugged into the solar charger.
That's a unique one. That's very unique. We haven't had the sleeping bag before. Had people go with the solar satellite, and one person wanted a lease line they'd have installed. It's like, that's when I started changing the question. You're not having any external communications. Everyone was going for internet connections and satellite phones. So, should we wrap up with the recommendations?
Okay.
So Google released a movie on YouTube called Trillions of Questions, No Easy Answer, a home movie about Google search and how it works. It's really good. It's about hour long movie, and it's all about Google search and how it works. And it focuses on the story behind BERT, which was the update that took place on Google last year. And it's interesting how the processes they go through and the review groups that it has to go through before it goes live. So if you're an SEO person or you're just interested in Google and search, it's definitely a movie worth watching. It's on YouTube, on Google's official YouTube channel. About 1 hour long and definitely worth a viewing.
Yeah, I've got to get around to seeing that one, James. I saw you said that. And I haven't got much this month because for some reason, it's just been one of those couple of weeks where I haven't finished what I was listening to before, I think, and watching what I was watching before.
Got a good one. Chicago 7 on Netflix.
Oh, okay. Is it good?
Yeah, it's really good. It's interesting of how biased the judge was against the people that are in there and how they wound the judge up and reacted to him. And he gave everybody, even the defense lawyers, contempt of court orders and sentenced them all to prison. at the end, but they do get released. But it's a great story on the rally, a democratic rally that took place in America in the late 70s, I think it was, or it might have been early 80s.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've seen that. It comes straight up on my Netflix, but yeah, I haven't watched it.
Yeah, it's got Sacha Baron Cohen, the guy who does Borat and all that doing in it. So he's always pretty decent in films, and he's quite a good actor because he's not. Everyone assumes he'll just be a comedy actor, but he can do serious parts as well. And talking on that, I guess you all watched Borat when it came out, the original. Well, Borat 2 is getting released on Amazon Prime very shortly, like within the week or so.
I am amazed.
A surprise announcement.
That's happened.
Pardon?
I'm amazed in today's woke culture that's been allowed.
It's good fun. It's good fun. Any recommendations you got there, Pete?
Oh, I was just going to say on that Borat thing, I think I read something today to say that he had to stay in character for, was it 5 days? I think he was with a group of journalists.
I haven't read that, but I imagine he does because to keep the illusion on. It's still amazing that people haven't noticed it and still fall for it.
I think a similar thing with, is it Keith Lemon?
Yeah.
Yeah, he incredible to be able to stay in character for all of the things he does, and everyone just sees him as Keith Lemon and not kind of the actual person he is and all the other things he does. But other recommendations, I mean, just finished watching The Boys. That's on, I think, Amazon Prime. That was a really, really good show. Really clever and funny and lots of art, drama and action.
That's a comedy take on superheroes, isn't it? The Boys.
Exactly. And the superheroes aren't always good, and they could seemingly to be doing, do the good, but actually behind the scenes they're not that great, and it's really interesting to take on. I think it's the third season, might be the second season, but yeah, there's like 30 episodes or 20 episodes to watch. Nice good one to get your teeth into.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people recommend that to me, so I might take a look on that.
Yeah, definitely.
So anything else? Any other recommendations before we go, or are you happy with your recommendations to our listeners?
Yeah, I think that's it, James, for me.
Pete, where can people find you? What's the best way to get in contact with you?
For me, YouTube.com/Pete Matheson. That's probably the easiest way. And there's links to websites and all sorts, and LinkedIn. Obviously, you want to connect on LinkedIn, then crack on.
Super. And you're on Twitter as well. We chat on Twitter. Is that Pete Matheson as well?
That's just at Pete, /Pete Matheson or at Pete Matheson. I haven't really decided what I'm doing with my social media now, but I'm just kind of doing little bits across all of it just to keep up the fun.
There we go. Thanks for joining us, Pete. It was great having you on the show. I hope you enjoyed it. Likewise, Kyle. And don't forget to subscribe, and share this podcast out with everybody who's out there. It's likewise with Pete. Get on his YouTube channel and follow it. I'm on there following it, and there's some good videos that come out there. Yeah. Interesting. I've actually got a cameo on one of your videos, so check that one out. So that's it. Thank you, and we'll speak to you all in the fortnight time.
Bye.
Bye.